as active of a breakout, but she's going to be getting back to us soon. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a document with all these questions because as you see, we go through, there's a lot of places where we don't have the information yet. And we'll constantly update this document and share it with all the members as the governor is giving us more information. But I think we can anticipate significant travel restrictions still in phase one, and we'll have clarity this week as to what they are.
Thank you. Question number 3. Part of my real estate business on Block Island includes an extensive private home rental component. To date, I have not heard much discussion about hotels, inns, bed and breakfast operations, or private rental homes. For the month of June, we have 122 short stay, which means 7 days or less, home rentals scheduled. Tenants hail from all over the country, with a high percentage of customers coming from New York, Connecticut, and New Jersey. Does the governor's contemplated plan restrict this type of travel and occupancy?
So we discussed the potential travel restrictions in the prior question. Occupancy, it does not, from what we know so far, restrict home rentals. Obviously, if there are travel restrictions, people would have to comply with that. But with hotels, a lot of the limitations are on the town level, not the state level. As we open things up, I think everyone needs to have a plan in place for disinfecting and cleaning. And we've put together recommendations, which we'll be emailing to the group with a comprehensive list for your business of things you should be looking at in order to safely open. When we're talking about restaurants and B&Bs and hairdressers, those are things that may be coming online in phase one in limited amounts. And in order to do that, you're going to have a plan in place. And so we suggest you look through these recommendations and develop a plan that works for your business because there's going to be some loosening in phase one, and you do have to have a plan in order to be part of that loosening. But the governor is going to have more information for us in either later today or tomorrow or Wednesday. They're coming out with information real soon.
Thank you. The next question, Blake, comes, and it's regarding the farmers market on Block Island. And it states, our market usually operates on Wednesdays and Saturdays, beginning in late June and ending the first weekend in October. We have 50 members that participate in Saturday markets at Legion Park. Though I have never counted, my estimate would be on our busiest days, the market sees 200 to 300 visitors come and go between the hours of 9 and 11:30 a.m. on those days. And then, so here's the question. With the governor's guidelines as they were stated, group gatherings are limited to 50 people or less. Is the only way to continue to operate by cutting our vendors, perhaps consumable goods only?
So as to that, farmers markets have remained open on the mainland. They haven't been part of the forced closures. And to our knowledge, grocery stores, et cetera, that have stayed open, the per person limits haven't included staff. So we've reached out to the governor's office and we're in communications to make sure that when they do come forward with new regulations, that it excludes vendors from the 50-person limit. Now, because the farmers markets are outside, there may be more than 50-person limits. That's something they're still working on. But obviously, it should be a different calculus when you're meeting outside as opposed to inside a building. In my opinion, I think there should be larger crowds allowed than enclosed areas. So they're going to have more information for us real soon. But I think it's important to note that any plans going forward will most likely exclude vendors from that 50-person limit. And we're going to work hard to make sure that that applies to the Block Island Farmers Market.
Excellent. I do think that your answers have encompassed her questions 2 and 3, but I'll just read them so that everyone knows. The other questions pertaining to the farmers market was, will they need to have someone in place to do a count and some of those protocols? And as our state representative and someone who's been to the farmer market before, what is your advice for proceeding with this Block Island tradition?
I think we've got to proceed with it. It's one of the best parts of Block Island. So I think we just have to sit tight. All of us should be communicating with the governor about this issue. I know we are. After this meeting, we're going to be sharing the governor's contact info and also Senator Reid, White House, and Langevin as it relates to a later question dealing with PPP funds. But it's important for everyone upstate to hear, not just from representatives and senators and town council, but also the people on the ground that this affects. And we have to make sure that the farmers market can be a success this year, as long as it can safely be done.
Great. Thank you. All right, so here is our next question. Will moped businesses still be able to have 35 mopeds each on the road, which would be about 175 mopeds? Curious about this because of our already strained medical center with the COVID virus.
So that would be up to the town council and the operators. In full disclosure, I am an operator. I've been an operator for a long time. The moped technology is much better these days. The amount of accidents is much less than it used to be. With that being said, the medical center really hasn't had a rush because of COVID. If there comes a point in the summer where the medical center is overburdened because of COVID, I think those are conversations that will have to happen. And the moped operators have a solid working relationship with the town. And I think everyone will do what is necessary to preserve public health on Block Island.
All right, very good. Next question. Does the state of Rhode Island have a rollout plan for businesses, meaning when each can open during each phase? For example, stores, hairdressers, hotels, eat-in restaurants, etc.
So they're developing phase one, and we're going to hear this week. We know that during phase one, there's going to be a limited opening of restaurants and hairdressers, et cetera, in office space. And we're going to have information within the next couple of days about that. It's really phase two, which I think is most important to Block Island, because if everything goes well, we will be in phase two around the 24th of May. And I think that's the most critical time. And then if everything goes well, we'll be in phase three, the first or second week of June. So that's what we're really focusing on for Block Island, is figuring out how to do phase two and phase three in a safe and responsible manner. But in phase one, there'll be limited openings, not many, which I think are relevant to Block Island at this time, given the town council's ordinance, which we're all following. But you will see a gradual opening in phase one, and hopefully everything goes according to plan, and there isn't an uptick in infections or hospitalizations. So we can get to phase two and phase three.
Excellent, excellent. Blake, talk to us about what it means to Rhode Islanders that we are now in a depression, according to Len Lenardo, economics professor from URI. He said that the state has depended too much on tourism and gambling, and we need to move forward with a knowledge-based economy. Can you address that?
Sure. So there's some pretty staggering numbers that have come out this past week. There are more Rhode Islanders in the labor force who are not working than there are who are working. That is a mind-boggling unemployment rate. Mr. Ludaro is correct that we do need to have a more diversified economy. But tourism and hospitality is the goose that has laid the golden egg for a long time in this state. And we need to make sure we support this industry while at the same time encouraging more manufacturing and high-tech businesses. That's something we've been calling for a long time, with targeted tax policy towards entire industries, instead of the current policy now where they've been giving state subsidies to specific businesses. We think we need to target industries as a whole so everyone can take advantage of government programs. But certainly we have to support our tourism. It's what keeps the state going, and we have to get back on its feet as soon as it's reasonably, we're able to do so in a safe manner.
Very good. Next question. Do the people of Block Island have any say regarding the ferry boat, that they don't overwhelm us with people this summer, and the same with the marinas? Can you address that, Blake?
Yes. So I think everyone has a say. The town council has a say. The individuals have a say. Really, it's going to come down to the governor and the PUC, who will make the ultimate decision. But I know they're very cognizant of the way Block Island feels about issues, and they're going to listen to us. So we all do have a say in this. And in my conversations with Interstate Navigation, the public health of Block Island is their primary concern. And so I think that if we all stay in contact, we'll find something that works for most everybody. But everyone certainly does have a say. And I strongly suggest you reach out to the governor in the information we're going to provide to you at the end of this meeting.
Excellent. This is more of a personal question for you as our representative. Mr. Filippi, what are you optimistic about in this environment?
I think what I'm optimistic about is that hundreds of millions of Americans, some who are at low risk for this disease, stayed home at great personal sacrifice to protect those people that they don't even know. So I think it shows the goodness of our country and that we are in this together, and that if we all continue to work together, we're going to come out on the other side better for it.
Very good. The governor has her restrictions and her 3 phases. Block Island Town Council has been more restrictive with their rules. Is that legal? Are most towns imposing stricter rules than the state? Your thoughts?
So other towns have imposed more restrictive guidelines in the state. I believe Barrington and Bristol have on the East Bay. As to the legality of it, I think the town has been reasonable, but I'm not going to offer a legal opinion on whether it is legal or not what the town has done. I'm happy to see the town is I think acting very responsible in opening things up slowly and methodically. We've seen that over the past couple of weeks. I anticipate that on Wednesday there's going to be a robust discussion about opening things up even more, but they definitely have their eye on the public health of Block Island. And but I won't offer a legal opinion on whether they can do it. I believe there's a substantial argument that they can, and I'm happy to see that they're taking that responsibility seriously and being deliberative.
Okay. Next question. What official guidelines should we be following besides the CDC and the Rhode Island Department of Health?
So in terms of official guidelines, obviously the town of New Shoreham's guidelines, CDC and Department of Health are the gold standard that we need to follow though. But in addition to that, every business should have a plan for safely reopening. And you'll see the kind of the checklist we've put together as to what people should be thinking about. And we'll get that to you guys after the meeting.
Very good. Just to add what you just said, Blake, too, I think if people are following the Department of Health, but they're updating that website every single day. So
Yep.
Constantly.
And we'll provide links to all the websites if you don't have it.
Yep. Governor Raimondo still has the restriction of out-of-state travel, meaning you have to quarantine. Does that continue to May 8th? Are the rules different for out-of-state travelers? Are they less than business travelers? And that will greatly impact us on the island. If so, can you comment on this?
Yeah, so until May 8th, the 2-week quarantine is still applicable. We anticipate in phase 1, there's going to be loosening of restrictions on business travel. And we're not totally sure as to what states that's going to apply to. Obviously, I think travel from New York may be viewed differently than travel from Vermont. But the 2-week restriction will stay in place. And she's going to be announcing the phase 1 restrictions this week. But we can expect significant travel restrictions to stay during phase 1.
All right. I do think this question you might have already answered, but I am going to be giving you every single question that comes in. So just in case some people might have joined us late. But can the town force us to comply to any rules they make? Do they have the power to shut my business down? Will I have to sign something?
So I'll just go back. I'm not going to offer a legal opinion on the town's policies. I think they've been reasonable. But if you think there's a legal issue, you should really talk to your lawyer. That's not me.
Okay, very good. Will the state be willing to compensate businesses for the masks, gloves, and sanitizers they have to buy?
Most likely not. The state is facing a budget calamity this year. They probably gonna have around $750 million short in state revenues starting next fiscal year, beginning July 1st. So I don't think anyone should expect any type of aid from the state, unfortunately.
Okay, very good. These are some of the questions that have come in since we've been on. Blake, do you recommend canceling J1 employees?
So that's up to individual businesses. I know some businesses have obtained mainland housing for their staff until it's safe to bring them to Block Island. Many J1s are coming internationally, and I don't know what the restrictions are from those individual countries. The United States has different restrictions with different countries. I know in our business, we had a lot of problems with our international people, which we had to cancel most of our international staff coming here. But we were able to obtain some mainland accommodations until it's safe to bring people here to Block Island. But I can't tell you what to do. I just think if people are coming international, you might not want to rely on that.
All right, very good. Next question. Why would Governor Raimondo have kept gun stores open in the state, especially with the threat of domestic violence increasing?
Understand that question. I think it comes down to the Second Amendment being a fundamental right. And you've seen actually a dramatic decrease in violence since early March when the stay-at-home orders came into effect. Very, very low gun crime. I'm sure if there was a spike, she would have looked at that decision again. But you've seen actually a dramatic decrease in violence in the state, which has been a good thing. I just think the governor understands that maybe you couldn't close down something where there is a fundamental right involved. And that also raises a lot of questions about why churches are shut. But maybe that's a conversation for another day.
All right, thank you. Massachusetts and Connecticut have a stay-at-home ban in place until May 20th. New York and New Jersey don't have a date yet. Are Block Islanders in a dangerous situation after May 8th, since we will still be open and a very popular tourist destination? Or do out-of-staters still have to quarantine? Your thoughts?
So, like I said, the governor is going to announce further information about phase one. I will say that in early March, we all did our part to stay home to flatten the curve. And that was to enable the state to ramp up its hospital capabilities. In early March, we had around 200 ventilators in the entire state. We've built 3 field hospitals since then with thousands of beds and thousands of ventilators. So I'm confident that the state's able to handle a surge, and that there's always going to be a risk until this is taken care of, until there's a vaccine or there's herd immunity. But I think that now that we've developed the capabilities to handle a surge, we can start loosening the reins, and we can do it responsibly. So I don't think that we can say there's never a risk. And when we start opening things up, if May 8th is the date, there's going to be a risk. But I'm confident the state has developed through the governor's leadership the infrastructure to handle any type of surge.
All right, very good. Please clear up the 50-person social gathering rule. Is this for people on the beach or in a park only? We are concerned as a restaurant for the following reasons. If the fire marshal allows 100 persons, can I social distance the patrons on the porch and on the lawn equaling 100 people? Or is this restaurant held to the 50-person rule, and would that include wait staff in the 50-person count?
Thank you. Sorry I'm moving around. I have to plug in this phone. It's crazy. iPhones, it's like they design them. They have built-in obsolescence. After 6 months, the batteries run out. I think the governor is going to have to design some type of accommodation for outside seating. You clearly don't have the same problems with transmission in an outside setting. So I believe there's going to be some type of accommodation. I don't know what that is now. They're clearly looking into it. And as soon as they have information, we're going to convey that to everybody. But, you know, it's the same thing with a farmer's market. It's outside. It shouldn't be limited the same extent as a restaurant with indoor seating. So I think a lot of us are going to have to be creative about finding a way to have more outside seating if this type of accommodation is available.
All right, very good. Next question. We own a restaurant on Block Island, and we have applied for PPP funds as we realized that even when we are open this summer, we expect to be doing a small fraction of the business that we usually do. While the PPP concept works for some businesses, it is especially a hard fit for restaurants and especially seasonal ones. We currently do not have an opening date from the state. Sorry about that. We currently do not have an opening date from the state, and the clock for using the PPP fund starts as soon as you receive the loan. For businesses that are not currently open, this makes using these funds impossible and not helpful. However, we could not wait on applying as the funds quickly run out. Is there a way that we can tailor the PPP funds to our needs, the restaurant industry, to help us get through this season?
That's probably one of the best questions. So as you know, PPP must be used for payroll, and some can be used for rent. They just came out with more guidance that it just has to be used for payroll. It clearly is an issue where people have obtained PPP funds and they're not legally allowed to be open. And I think there needs to be an accommodation from the Small Business Administration. And after this call, I'm going to be reaching out to our delegation, Senator Whitehouse and Reed in Langevin's office, to see if they can adopt regulations that 8-week period begins when you open up, when you're lawfully allowed to open up, not 8 weeks from when you receive the monies. We're going to be sharing the contact information for Langevin, Reed, and Whitehouse, and we encourage everybody to reach out and explain the unique circumstances we've been under here on Block Island to see if an accommodation can be made where you were not able to be lawfully open. I hope we can achieve that accommodation. If we can't, we have to remember that PPP funds, the portion that's not used for payroll, will be turned into a loan rather than a grant. I understand that's not ideal. We really want all of this to be grants. And I just hope we can convince them to have the SBA, or convince the SBA to change its regulations, because it's really harming people out here if the 8 weeks has already started.
All right, thank you. And this is a follow-up to that question, Blake. Using those funds to help payroll and expenses when we are open for businesses during our high season of July and August will help offset the restrictions that we will be operating under and allow us to pay our staff even with lower revenues, which is what the PPP was created for, and we appreciate your reaching out on our behalf.
So it's my pleasure to reach out. I would urge everyone to reach out yourselves too. Senator Reed, Whitehouse, and Representative Langevin are extremely responsive. They care about this island, and it's important that they hear from everyone about how the current SBA regulations can negatively affect us going forward. But we need to change it. We need to change it, definitely.
Next question. When do you expect the housing inspections to occur, and how is this going to be handled?
So if you're talking about the minimum housing inspections to get your rooming house license, stay tuned to the town council meeting on Wednesday. I think it should proceed immediately because there's a backlog and there's a lot of work to do to get every place inspected. They don't necessarily have to issue the licenses once the inspection is done, but we don't want there to be a 6-month window where they can't get inspections done and licenses legally can be obtained. So the town's going to be meeting this Wednesday, and it's certainly something they're cognizant of, and hopefully we'll get on and start the process.
All right, here we go. When do you expect we will be able to expect new guidelines and policies for opening our inn, such as house cleaning policies, check-in policies, social distancing, wearing masks, staff PPE equipment, etc.? It would be great to get some guidelines for opening that so that all businesses can adhere to it.
So every business is going to have some type of plan. That plan is going to be individualized. The governor may be coming out with specific recommendations. It's not clear yet what she's going to be doing. Can you guys hear me? Actually, can you just confirm you can hear me?
I'm hearing you, but we had everyone else turn off their volume.
No, I'm just confirming, Sue, you can, because these headphones stop.
Yeah, I can, but if you can stand still, that would be awesome.
I just had to go to my charger that wasn't working. I had to find another one. So we don't know what the regulations are going to be. I assume there's going to be some. I strongly recommend you start planning now. Everything from obtaining what we're doing at the Manatees, we're obtaining an electrostatic fogger that will disinfect everything. So when you clean the room, the last thing you do is you go through with this fogger and it makes sure that any microbes, organisms are gone. And we're going to ensure that that's done every time there's a turnover. So we haven't gotten the regulations yet, but we're assuming it's going to happen. And even if it doesn't happen, I think our guests are going to want to be sure that they're staying in a safe place. So it's something that we're focusing on now to accommodate. And check out the list we're going to send you, because there's a lot of things that'll make you think about how to open up your business the best way. I don't know if there's going to be regulations though, but even if there's not, I think everyone's got to do their part just for the customers.
Very good. The next question is, do you think will hotels on Block Island be allowed to open for Memorial Day weekend, which begins on Friday, May 22nd?
So under state guidelines, you can. It's going to be up to the town. I don't know that they're going to loosen it up at that point. I don't know that there's going to be people who are looking to vacation at that point. But it's going to be up to the town council. Under the state guidelines, I believe you can be open at that point.
Okay. Next question. We are concerned that the governor has already indicated to 2020 wedding guests that social gatherings will be restricted for the summer. Due to this, many weddings have been canceled. Surely the 4-phase rule should be applied across the board. Your thoughts?
So, could you repeat the question? I'm sorry. Could you repeat it? I'm trying to understand exactly what was asking. I want to answer it.
Okay. They want to be reassured that tented weddings outdoors are given equal rights to service our customers when the numbers are increased in beyond phase 3. So they're seeing a discrepancy there. Yeah.
So I don't know what they're going to come up with in terms of outdoor versus indoor. The governor seemed to say that outdoor venues, outdoor gatherings are going to have significant restrictions. Specifically, she focused on the concerts in Newport. Whether that's going to be limited to 50 people, I don't know. I think it has to be based on the science, and I think the science says that outside venues may not have the same risk of transmission. But if you're in a tent, I don't know if that applies. But I think that the 50-person gathering is something we all should pretty much bank on. We've had to cancel a bunch of weddings too, and I know it's happening everywhere. It's tough. I'm sorry that I don't have a better answer.
Yeah. I think a lot of people are feeling that one. Blake, you mentioned guidelines from the state over the next several days, and having a plan will allow inns and B&Bs to open. Will there be a template provided And will they need to be reviewed and approved by the state or the town, or is it just have a plan in quotes?
I think you just need to have a plan. Even if there aren't requirements, there aren't application processes, I think you do need to have a plan. There may be further requirements where you have to submit it to the Department of Health or the town. So I don't know. I don't know what the state's going to require, and I don't know what the town's going to require. But even if they don't require anything, I think you have to have a plan as a business owner.
All right, very good. I'm down to the last two questions that I have here right now. So if anyone has any more, if they want to email me. But the next question is, if the state will not be able to provide businesses with masks, gowns, hand sanitizer, PPE, etc., where will businesses be able to purchase these items to protect our staff and our guests?
So there's a lot of places that are selling PPE now. You can find some deals out there, especially if you don't need it now. We found some on the internet with delivery 4 to 6 weeks out, and we've ordered it. So I think you have to start planning now. The state's not going to provide it. They're just trying to build up the PPP we need as our stocks for our hospitals. So I would suggest really digging on the internet now and ordering it, knowing that there's a pretty big lead time because a lot of it has to come over internationally because we're not producing much here.
All right. And the last question that I have is, what is your understanding of the 50-person limit in the case of a business that has a larger capacity and could potentially have more than 50 guests indoors while maintaining a 6-foot distance?
They haven't given clarification yet. They just haven't. I think the concern is that, okay, you have enough space to keep 6 feet apart, but that may not happen when you're going up to the bar to buy a drink, or when people have been imbibing all day. So I think that's the concern, is that they just want crowds limited, even if you have plenty of space, because invariably people are going to be walking by each other and bumping into each other. But they haven't come out with any more clarification on it, and they will be soon. But I do wish we had more guidance from the governor's office, and she knows she has to provide it. I think they're just waiting for more data to come in because the summer really is still 2 months out. And I don't think they want to make a decision now that they can't back away from.
Very good. I got one more in.
Oh, yeah.
Blake, where did you get your fogger?
We'll find it's a place on the internet, but we'll put the links. There was 5 or 6 different places that we found good ones in. We shopped around, but we'll provide the links to these businesses in the email we send out after this meeting.
All right, at this point, it looks like, oh wait, I got one more for you. They're coming in.
I think all of us have plenty of time on our hands, so it's okay.
Right, we can keep this going. Is your recommendation that we limit our market vendors to only produce and consumer goods? About half of our vendors are artists, jewelers, and craftspeople. This is from Meg for the farmers market. She's wondering if there should be any limitations to the farmers market.
I'm not a scientist. I know my lane. I don't have any data that would enable me to make a reasonable recommendation. I think that the governor's office should be coming out with guidelines, but I don't know. I can't give you my opinion because it's not my industry. It's not my lane. I don't know the data. I don't. So I don't want to talk out of school.
Very good. Do you want to give a wrap up? I think that's my last question.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Well, thanks everybody. My cell phone is 744-2242. If anyone wants to speak offline with me, call me anytime. I wish we had more clarity on a lot of these questions. I will tell you that I know the governor's office is aware of all the issues that have been raised, except the farmers one with produce versus crafting. I'll reach out to them and say, listen, this is something we need to deal with. But they've been on it. They've been responsive. Unfortunately, they don't have all the information that we need at this point, but they're going to be coming out with it, and we're going to be updating all these questions and weekly sending out updated answers to everything people have asked. We're going to create some type of Google document that everyone can access to see changes as things evolve. But you have my cell phone number. Reach out to me anytime if you guys want to chat.
And one last final question just popped in. Did you research UV light as well as the fogger?
Yeah. I looked at UV lighting. I have some experience with it. I have a reverse osmosis machine that uses UV lighting. I felt that just for our place, we have 17 rooms and a big restaurant. I felt that using a UV light over all the areas just wouldn't be efficient. It would take a really long time. So just in my opinion, I think a fogger is better. Just for a bigger place. If you have a small place, maybe a UV light would work for you.
Very good. I think that does it. And then, and just to reiterate on what Blake had said is we will be emailing this worksheet to Cindy, and then she'll be emailing it out to everyone with all the links that you mentioned today and the contact information for the federal delegation.
Thank you, everybody. See you around. Bye.